Hi class, my name is Miriam Birdsell, and this second activity is going to include several chapters. All of them, to me, was pretty focused on teaching. So the first chapter that I would like to discuss is chapter 4, where it's just talking about the effective instruction, right? So some components of the excuse me, of the display theory that is talking, is how we deliver the presentation. There's two ways, actually: expository and inquisitory. So the expository is I see that on my children's school, right, where they come and do the show and tell. So they just present something they try to share with the class. In this case, we're just trying to show something that is going to relate to the principal. And inquisitory is just, asking questions, just encouraging learning practice. We can use both. It's not that we have to decide between one or the other. Merrill's principle of instruction, he suggested 5 of them. And some of them, I believe we can also appreciate it at school, even at church. He said, that we need to to provide life learning experience, or just create expose life problems. The second principle is just we can facilitate the knowledge when the knowledge is already gained and can activate foundations of new knowledge. The third principle is facilitating the power of demonstration. The fourth one is when all the participants apply all that knowledge to solve problems. And the fifth one, we not only have to stop there, but we have to also to provide new knowledge. So, it's kind of at school, they try to, especially in this career, try to not really apply what we already know to our families and live by it, but also just keep basing of that learning and new knowledge. Um, Chapter 5 is just how can we engage the audience. So it's talking about the art of teaching, and there's three basic or three important elements that to me I can see in not only in teaching at church or school, but also at home, which is relevance, respect, and participation. Um, when my children come to school and I'm trying to teach some kind of principle to them, whether it's honesty, for example, or any other principle. I'm trying to point it out usually why it is so important to be honest in this case. And they usually share with me, what happened, why do this become an issue when we all know we need to be honest. But I also notice that when I show respect to what they share with me, I don't judge what they're saying with me. It creates a better teaching moment between them and us. And obviously, participation is like the intercommunication that we can have. It's not only me talking and preaching and telling him why honesty is important, but for him to, or for any of my kid expressing why it's so important to be honest. So also in that chapter, he talks about personality theories. So in this chapter, it talks about some theories, as I said, and one of them is the conflict theory. Actually, BYU Idaho offers a class that is conflict management, and you kind of learn to see conflict in a different way. And I think a family life educator has to see that conflict is not only a bad thing, but it's also a way that to people to progress, to learn, to understand that a problem is not always a problem. It's just the way that we see the problem that makes it a little bit of conflict. Another is the consistency model, which is talking about how can we reduce the tension or difference between expectation and reality. So, and the fulfillment model, which is focused in one great force, is that we make participants realize that they have the ability to solve the problem. So, all these three is again, I can see, I just see it in our families constantly. We don't see eye to eye, and we just, don't always agree. But, that just explaining, just trying to work out through our difference, and you know, we just need to provide different situations where we all can, or not situations, but negotiations where we all can be happy with the solution, and you know, also make our children consider that they can give us ideas, not because we're the parents we know everything, but they can also provide some ideas. So I kind of like this chapter because I make me wonder how can I use this chapter to teach my children. Um, Joining relationships or build relationships is not so much that you just build a relationship, but it's the quality that you have in this relationship, and that's the biggest factor. Um, Another thing is, you know, that we need to realize as a family life educators is that even though we use some techniques that therapists use, there's still a difference. Chapter 6 it basically is focused on teaching skills and tools in family education. So I really like this chapter because it made me think about the workshop that my teammate and I are trying to plan, and how can we provide different activities that is going to make our workshop more effective and more um, you know, sometimes you just go to a place and you forget what they're even talking about, but just having all these many group discussions, different ways to have that group discussion, it was a very good um, technique to go with these workshops. So some of them is like the fishbowl. In our case, we're gonna try to do our workshop about dating. I'm married with children, and I'll be honest, dating for me was kind of complicated. But you know, fishbowl discussion, or even the skill training discussion. I mean, the skill training, I think would be very beneficial, and I wish I could have it. Fishbowl, I do see how it works good when you're trying to teach parenting skills, especially when it's about, like the book explained, teenagers. You know, you learn to see what others are really thinking, and you notice that not always it's the same. Chapter 7 is talking about diversity, and diversity is not only about ethnicity really, but it's about your family experiences, your learning styles. And as a family life educator, I think we need to be aware that we need to be sensitive to those differences, and it's not bad. It just requires us to, as a family life educators, to be more effective and be careful, because maybe we're trying to transmit a message when in the culture, you know, the message is going to be different just because it has a different cultural background, not because we don't know how to explain it. Like in my case, I'm from Mexico, and sometimes it makes sense when people try to explain the importance of the father, for example, and when it's not really well explained, it may sound like the typical macho culture, but in reality, it's more about respect. There's something that I learned that I knew is the skill dialogue, which includes, you know, respect, reciprocity, and responsiveness. I didn't really ponder much about that before, but it is true. When there is a dialogue that is not judgmental, um, it gets a more impact in our lives. Um, and as a family life educators, obviously, we have to be programming or planning for diversity. In our workshop, even though we're very specific, is for LDS, you know, single adults between the ages 18 to 30. That doesn't mean that we won't have diversity. I think we still are gonna we're gonna notice diversity for different areas, right? Because some people may come from maybe the youngest, and so probably the older siblings share some experience about dating and have a better understanding about dating. Some of them, maybe they were the oldest, so I don't know, maybe they just didn't consider dating as an important. So we still will face diversity, but it is important to consider that it is okay to have diversity. We just need to be sensitive and to those differences. The learning teaching gospel, it's it is applicable to what we want to teach, even into our community. You know, when you appeal to emotions, people may think, oh, I just feel good inside. In reality, maybe it was the Holy Ghost, you know, trying to teach them something. So I know we're trying to teach LDS senior adults in this case, and it's going to be so helpful to rely on the Holy Ghost, because we don't really teach when it comes to gospel or any other things. We just provide, the material, and the Holy Ghost is the one who teaches us and make us feel if it's truth and if it's correct and it's something that we need in our lives. So, the role as a teacher in this chapter also, it says focus on that. We just don't present it, but we also prepare it. We also must live in a way that our teaching is gonna make more sense. It's gonna have more impact. It's gonna have a bigger influence on the students. So some effective skills for teaching, is like we all know. Probably I'm gonna sound like Sunday school teacher, but reading the scriptures, studying. A good teacher is gonna have presentations, questions and discussion class, visuals. I have a teacher in BYU, Idaho. He was a teacher for a marriage class and love his class because he wasn't the typical class. He will provide all different stuff, from a video clip, from a song, from a different stuff that makes you wonder about the principles he was trying to teach. Especially there was one about the point of view of Eve as a mother and having one of his child not being the good child that she was expecting. And it made me reflect it. And he just didn't preach it. He just, kind of introduced him with video clips and scriptures and songs. So it was very interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter as much as I did, and hope you guys have a good day.